Hello, the book I'm going to read to you is called The Saddest Time. It is by Norma Simon, and the pictures are by Jacqueline Rogers. And this book has 3 different stories in it. And the story I'm going to read you today is about a little girl whose grandmother is dying. Do you have any grandparents? Everybody has grandparents, but sometimes your grandparents die when they get very old. All of my grandparents have died. I knew them when I was a little girl, and I miss them very much. It is natural for flowers to die at the end of summer, and it is natural for people to die after a long life. Emily's grandma was very sick. She knew that it was time for her to die. She was not afraid, but she was sorry to leave the people she loved. And the people she loved, especially Emily, were very sorry to say goodbye to her. So when people get very old, they will die. And that's normal, but it can be very hard to say goodbye, and you might worry that they won't be with you anymore. When Emily's grandma lay dying, her family stood by her bed. Grandma reached out her hand to Emily. Emily squeezed it gently. Grandma tried hard to smile. She wanted to cheer up the family, but nobody felt cheerful. Emily was very sad, and a little scared too. The hospital room was still when Grandma stopped breathing. Suddenly, everyone was crying, and Emily knew that Grandma was dead. So there's her whole family and Grandma. And even though she was old and it was time for her to die, people still felt very sad. Grandma's funeral was on a rainy day. The church was filled with family and friends. The minister said nice things about Emily's grandma and the good long life she had lived. So oftentimes when people will die, their families will have a funeral, and it might be in a church or it might be in a nice place. Sometimes it's even outside, where you talk about the person and you remember all the good things about them. Emily knew that Grandma had lived a long time, but it wasn't long enough for Emily. She felt angry. Why did Grandma have to die? Emily saw how old Grandpa looked, with his wrinkled face and tired eyes. It wasn't fair for Grandma to leave Grandpa all alone. It wasn't fair at all. So you can see Emily and her family and Grandpa. And she feels a little angry. That's okay. You might feel angry that you don't get to have more time with somebody. At the cemetery, Emily cried and cried as if her heart would break. The cemetery, you might hear called a graveyard or a cemetery. That's where sometimes you bury people who die. In some places they don't do that, but some places they do. After the funeral, Grandpa stayed at Emily's house. For many days, Emily and her family talked about Grandma. Her father told Emily, "I was lucky to be part of her family. Ever since your mother and I decided to marry, Grandma treated me like her very own son." So her grandma was Emily's mom. That was her mom. But even though Emily's father, that wasn't her grandma's son, she still treated him like he was one of her children. Emily's mother said, "Grandma enjoyed so many things. Remember how she never missed her bowling? And remember how Grandma and Emily liked to look at pictures in Grandma's photo album, even when Emily was very small?" Emily told her family about the oatmeal cookies she and Grandma baked and how they would always eat too, hot from the oven. "Those were the tastiest cookies in the whole wide world," Emily said. So she remembers something special she and her grandma used to do together. Grandpa liked to talk about Grandma too, even though sometimes it made him cry. "Talking makes me feel less alone," he told Emily. And talking helps keep Grandma's memory alive and well in all the people she loved. Even though you can feel sad talking about somebody who's died, it can help you to remember. Talking and crying made Emily feel better too, and after a while she didn't feel quite so sad and angry anymore. It's been a few years since Grandma died, and Emily is older now. She still misses her grandma, but the missing doesn't hurt as much. When she bakes oatmeal cookies, she always eats one, hot from the oven, and remembers Grandma with special love. Even when you get older, you still might miss your grandparents or a family member. My grandparents have been dead for a long time, and I still do miss them a little bit. But I think about all of the happy times that I had with them when I was little, and that makes me feel better. Your life is full of beginnings. Making a new friend, learning to ride your bike, sleeping over at a friend's house for the first time. New and interesting beginnings will happen all the years of your life. But with your happy new beginnings will be some sad times too, when other people's lives end, when dying happens to people you love. Beginnings and endings, joy and sadness, birth and death. They are part of life for you and for everyone. Just like how in the fall all the leaves fall off the tree and in the spring they come back, everybody is born and everybody dies. I hope this helped answer some of your questions about what happens when someone dies. I'll read to you later.